Okay, let's first tell you the methodology of this poll. How have we done this poll? What are the dates of the India Today Cicero Mood of the Nation poll? The survey was conducted across 260 constituencies in the country. That should be Lok Sabha constituencies. 260 Lok Sabha constituencies. Respondents from 519 polling states across 19 states have been surveyed in this poll. And it was done between the 1st and the 14th of March. So it's as recent as that, and it gives you a sense of what is the mood of the nation at the moment. We're going to bring you first the big questions and the answers that we have to them. Let's give you the first big question, which was part of the survey. We asked who should be the Prime Minister of India at the moment. Let's take a look at the Prime Minister ratings at the moment. Sonia Gandhi comes 5th. 5% of the voters said Sonia Gandhi should be the Prime Minister of the country. Then 7% said Jayalalitha. 7% chose Jayalalitha as their candidate. Then Rahul Gandhi was sharing that space with Jayalalitha. Arvind Kejriwal is coming in second position, 15%. Very interesting. Arvind Kejriwal gets 15% of the vote. And 36%, as many as 36% want Narendra Modi. So as many as 36% want Narendra Modi even now as the country's Prime Minister. But, and this is the big but, that's down from about 57% who wanted him when we did the poll in August. So Modi's popularity has taken a dip in this period. The other big question that we asked in this survey was on performance. The India Today Group Cicero Mood of the Nation poll, how has the Modi government performed? Now 22% say excellent. 22% thought the Prime Minister's government's performance is excellent. 38% says it's good. So if you add good and excellent, it's 60%. 6 out of 10 are saying the government has performed well. Then you look at average, that's about 26% saying average, 11% saying the Prime Minister's performance or the performance of his government has been poor. But overall it appears that Mr. Modi has done reasonably well. Okay, what is the biggest achievement of the Modi government? Let's take a look at achievements. Okay, the big achievements of this government. Take a look at where this government stands when it comes to the big achievements of the government. Prime Minister Modi's biggest achievement, 34% said improving the country's international image. That was seen as a big achievement of this government. 21% said discipline in the bureaucracy. So these are 2 points where Mr. Modi stands out. 18% only said fast decisions to clear projects was being seen as an achievement of this government. Only 13%, and this is the worry for Mr. Modi, said reducing corruption has been an achievement. So when you look at it, improving international image is almost 3-1 when it comes to reducing corruption. Okay, what should be the focus of the government? What should be the focus of this government? We asked. 27% said control price rise. Mehengai remains a big issue for the voter 9 months later after that, 11 months after his general election win. 24% said reduce corruption. Add the two, it's 51%. Mehengai and Bhrashtachar right at the top. 16% said eradication of poverty. The other was 9% said crimes against women. So clearly, in a sense, the challenges for Mr. Modi at the moment, 5% saying progress of farmers, the challenge is price rise and corruption for the Prime Minister. That's a good point on which we can take forward our debate. Early suggestions that Mr. Modi has some challenges ahead of him. Joining me now is Javed Ansari, our National Affairs Editor, Vivek Law, Business Editor with Television of India Today Group. Manisha Priyam, Senior Political Analyst and Scientist, joins us. And Surjit Bhalla, welcome back. Political economist, just back, I can tell you, from Australia, where he's been watching the World Cup. So he's had a good time while the rest of us have been working. But the big questions that have come in from this early indication. Let's first look at Prime Minister of India. And that's a good point in which to start, Surjit Bhalla, because Narendra Modi was over 50% when we asked this question in August. That was just 3 months after the general elections. Now it is 36%. That's about a 19% gap over this period of time. Are you surprised that when we ask this question, there's a sharp dip? Who should be the Prime Minister of India?
No, I'm not surprised.
It's still higher, I can tell you, it's still higher than what Vajpayee had at the same stage when we did a mood of the nation when he was Prime Minister.
You mean 9 months after?
That's right, 9 months after the Vajpayee government.
So that is an interesting piece of news, which I didn't know. But other than that, you know, the decline, the honeymoon period, we've all talked about it, the grace period, that's over. Now people want action. If they don't see immediate action, then the person is considered unpopular, etc. So I think there's 2 points. One, this is not surprising. But second, the information that you've given, that basically when you did the poll back in 98, 99, 6 months after, that even Vajpayee could not retain much higher than that. And third, about the 36%, is approximately their vote share in the NDA vote share in the last election. So they haven't gained much.
Is the honeymoon over, is the question. Yeah. N. Ram is joining us, former editor-in-chief of The Hindu. I'm also joined by Sanjay Baru, who's been, of course, who's with Center for Policy Research, former advisor, press advisor to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Let me ask both of you also, and I'm going to take this across the panel. Is the honeymoon over? Is the question, N. Ram. Do you believe that the honeymoon of Narendra Modi is over?
Yes, I think it's clearly over, and I wouldn't take so lightly this dip, notwithstanding what you said about Mr. Vajpayee, because that's quite a big drop in his personal popularity as measured by this poll. It may be that no major anti-incumbency has set in, but there are indications, and I think for connecting it with what you said about the disappointment of the public with delivering on the promise to reduce corruption or eliminate corruption, and read along with the fairly high concern about the price rise, I think they cannot be complacent about it.
Sanjay Baru, is the honeymoon over? Remember, even when Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister, he had a fairly high approval rating in his first year. Not as high as Mr. Modi, but relatively high. So, do you believe the honeymoon is over, or is this simply a wake-up call to the Prime Minister?
Well, I think, first of all, the honeymoon is certainly over. It ended when the BJP lost in Delhi. I mean, I think that was the real turning point as far as the honeymoon is concerned. Now we are into normal tenure of this government. And your overall ratings on the performance of the government are still at 60% for good and excellent put together. So the overall rating for the government is high. Of course, Prime Minister's popularity is down. But since you asked the question, if you want to compare the first 10 months of Manmohan Singh and the first 10 months of Modi, the point I would make is that Manmohan Singh began with low expectations, and then his remarkable performance in the first few months actually improved his popularity. While I think in the case of Mr. Modi, he has begun with very high expectations, and the fact that the government has not really been able to move faster than what people expected it has brought his popularity down.
I think you make an interesting point, Manisha Priyam. Achhe din aayenge. Modi's government came to power on that premise. There was a sense of optimism, a sense of hope, a sense of faith, some of which still exists in this poll. But obviously, as the point that Dr. Baru made is well taken, there were very high expectations, which means that if he doesn't even fulfill one or two of them, there is an equally high sense of disillusionment. Is that what Mr. Modi at the moment to some extent is suffering from, this tidal wave of expectations that came with him becoming Prime Minister? 60% still sees performance as excellent and good. I must say that also.
See, the slogan Achhe Din was really a data smoothing political offer made by the political party. If you went back to the electorate was actually asking, and especially if you look at the electorate asymmetrically, those at the bottom of the pyramid were clearly asking for two things. One is inflation, which is hitting the household budgets big time, and the second is employment. They understand that generation of employment is a thing that comes in a while. So the slow decline, or somewhat the great disillusionment, is not set in as yet, because they're still hoping and waiting that there'll be something there. But on price rise, I can clearly tell you that the battle is in a very sticky situation. The structural constraints in front of the government are such that if no headway is made, in fact, even the questions that you say on poverty are indeed questions on price rise.
Let me just take that to Vivek Law. You know, from a business perspective, price rise, inflation. Look, every poll says, you know, usually price rise hits us. But is there a sense that you get that on the economy, that is where, in a sense, Mr. Modi's challenge is emerging, that is where people are saying, look, you promised us that we would have the economy growing overnight, jobs would come in, prices would be brought down. Is there a sense that the political economy remains his big battle from these early numbers?
Rajdeep, you raised that point about Achhe Din, and there is a question which has been asked to people which says, has your quality of life improved in the last 6 months? And interestingly, the majority, 43%, say there has been no change. And which is exactly the same, it was 44% back in August. Which means that a majority of the people feel that nothing has changed. They don't say that it's gotten worse, nor do they say it's gotten better. That piece remains the same. But 43% feel that the Achhe Din hasn't come. Now the question is, as far as businesses and as far as corporate India and the stock market is concerned, you know, they may not come out that vocally out. We saw what happened with Mr. Deepak Parekh coming out and making that comment and the kind of reaction that the government unleashed on him. But the fact is, the general view is time for talk is over. We like what we've heard, but now get down to action.
You know, that's it. You know, there's an old saying that you govern in prose and you campaign in poetry. There's a sense sometimes that the Prime Minister is promising so much and tends to again even govern sometimes in poetry with his rhetoric. Do you believe that that is what is perhaps his, in a sense, his Achilles heel in a way?
Actually, I want to...
Is the economy his Achilles heel? Let me be even more specific.
Let me speak directly on the economy, and if you will, I have a suggestion for your pollsters and yourselves at the next time. And it has to do with this price rise. I think, you know, somebody is smoking something that I don't know. Okay? And, you know, the petrol price has fallen. The food prices have stabilized.
No,
one second.
Sorry.
Please,
Sushil,
I will finish.
I don't know whether you go to the market.
I do go to the market.
Bala is buying vegetables from a place where no one knows.
No, you've got to give me time on this. I know, I've heard Manisha on this, but really somebody's smoking something, okay? There is one thing that has happened in India over the last year, and that is inflation. Price rise is down from 12% to about a third or half of it, 5%. Now, listen.
Our respondents in this...
I know, that's what I'm saying.
What are the respondents smoking
what they're objecting to? Okay?
Yes.
It seems like that's the only way. I mean, when you look at garbage, you try and interpret why you're getting garbage.
Yes.
And what you say is that, listen, ask the question that the price level, are prices of vegetables, foods, petrol too high? That's how you should get it.
Can I just get Vivek to respond to that, Vivek, because you've looked at this survey. Is there a point in what Dr. Bhalla is saying? Should the voter be looking at prices compared to what it was last year, rather than looking at it in absolute terms? And
that's
saying
what price rise means.
Yeah, but Rajdeep, this is about the mood. This is not about getting into statistics here. Of course, what Mr. Bhalla is saying is absolutely right. Inflation figures have come down over the
people are dissatisfied. People wanted more. They wanted more.
And an interesting point, Rajdeep.
They said, "Bahut hui महंगाई से हुई मार."
That's right. And Rajdeep, interestingly, controlling price rise was the third important issue back in August last year. It's the #1 issue now.
That's why something is wrong.
Okay, so you're saying something is wrong. Okay, you believe something is wrong. Javed, I'm going to come to you in a moment. Okay, I'm going to come to you all in a moment, but I just want to get Endram on an interesting other aspect of it. So while Mr. Modi seems to be finding it tough on the economic front, interestingly, his biggest achievement, Mr. Ram, is seen improving India's international image. Now, 12 months ago when he was taking over Prime Minister, most people said, will Modi be able to handle international relations? How will he deal with America? How will he deal with the neighborhood? He's coming out looking rather good on the international front. Would you concede that?
I think he's traveled a great deal and sought to make an impression on the international stage, and I'm not surprised that people connect this activism with projecting India's international image and doing it better, perhaps. Compared with Manmohan Singh, who later on, I think, got too low profile, although he had a lot of depth in his foreign policy. So I think it makes sense that that's the angle, that's what comes out to people when you do a Mood of the Nation poll. So I'm not surprised by that. It doesn't really speak to performance, the substance of performance, but it speaks to a projection of image, I think.
Okay, so
which
it's
is what is impressive.
you believe it's an image projection, impressionistic. But Sanjay Baru, it's interesting because even Manmohan Singh, particularly in the latter part of his tenure, it was suggested he was more popular outside India than he was within India. Now that's not true with Narendra Modi, but certainly it appears that the Prime Minister's efforts at reaching out to countries in the neighborhood, to reaching out to the West, seems to have given him the image of a proactive leader, improving India's international image 34%. And the number 2 point is discipline in the bureaucracy. He's therefore seen as someone who's managed to bring the bureaucracy in some way to some kind of discipline. Together, 55%, these are seen as his 2 biggest achievements. Would you agree with these 2?
Well, first of all, Rajdeep, give me 2 minutes.
Sure.
On the whole issue of inflation.
Okay.
You will recall that when I used to be in the Prime Minister's office and you used to do the same kind of opinion polls on another channel, every time you did the opinion poll, I would call you and say, look, the inflation question, any time of day, any day of the year, any year of the decade, you ask people, are you worried about prices? They're worried about prices. Inflation always gets that response that people are always worried about inflation, even if, as Surjit Balla correctly says, that the economists will tell you that the rate of inflation is down.
Right.
But ordinary people in any opinion poll always say, oh, we are worried about. Mehengai is an issue that worries us all the time.
Yes.
Even if today farmers are in distress,
yes,
because potatoes are rotting and selling at 2 rupees a kilo,
right,
and food grain prices are crashing. So I think on inflation I tend to go along with Surjit Balla. But on the issue of foreign policy, the fact is that in the first 10 months, Mr. Modi has been very, very active on the foreign policy front. I think part of the reason is that Prime Ministers always tend to be active on the foreign policy front. That's normal. From Nehru's times we have seen.
Yes.
Prime Ministers are all about foreign policy. Their image is made by foreign policy. Secondly, in Mr. Modi's case, I think he wanted to establish that having been a Chief Minister for 2 decades, he wanted to show people of India that he's also an international statesman or someone who understands the world. And I think that was part of his travel was about that. But finally, I would say a substantial point that I do think, and this is probably partly due to Mr. Modi, but I think generally because India has matured in the last few years, we now have a much more sophisticated foreign policy. Our relations with not just the United States, but with China, with Russia, with a large number of other countries are actually better today than they were 10 years back. So in that sense, I think foreign policy has been an achievement.
But on the other hand, Javed, is that Mr. Modi, there were 2 big slogans. Apart from Achhe Din Aayenge, there was महंगाई से हुई मार, अब की बार मोदी सरकार, बहुत हुआ भ्रष्टाचार, अब की बार मोदी सरकार. Enough of corruption, let's get in Modi. On the survey at the moment, reducing corruption, only 13% see it as his biggest achievement. That's the point. And when it comes to what should be Mr. Modi's focus, 24% say corruption should be his big focus. Now we could argue like rising prices, people believe that no government is doing enough to curb corruption. But is that a concern you believe out there, particularly in the way the Delhi election voted? We saw what happened in Delhi where price rise and corruption were 2 issues that Arvind Kejriwal focused on and did reasonably well. Are these still the 2 areas where Mr. Modi is seen to be someone who's promising a lot, hasn't delivered? Na khaunga, na khane dunga, but it's not yet happened on the ground.
Look, there's obviously a disconnect between rhetoric and what's happening on the ground. But you have to give this government its due. It's still not been hit by any corruption scandal.
No major corruption scandal.
However, the problem why the people are reacting this way is because the corruption lower down, the daily corruption that people have to deal with, that's not been eradicated. So therefore, Mr. Modi's slogan of na khao na khane dunga, he may not be making money, but lower down still people are making money, and that's something which is hurting. And unless he deals with that, this will continue to be a problem for him and his image.
Okay, so there is the corruption question. Let me move to another set of questions, because we want to know what are the areas in a sense that Mr. Modi is faced as challenges. The India Today Group Cicero poll asked whether there was an increase in communal violence in the last 11 months. This was a question. Remember, this is a mood of the nation, so it's impressionistic. 37% said yes, 48% said no, 15% said can't say. India Today Group Cicero poll asked the question about support for the RSS's vision of a Hindu state. 37% said yes, 48% said no, 15% said can't say. The poll also asked anti-religious conversion law, is it needed? Interestingly, 57% said yes, we need such a law. We need a law on conversion. No was 32%, can't say was 11%. Manisha Priyam, in the media, there's been a lot of noise which has been made on this issue of communalism, about a rise in communal incidents. The fact is, on the ground, people don't seem to see it the same way. Almost 48% are saying no. There hasn't been an increase in communal violence. But if you read the media, it seems that in the last 11 months, there is greater targeting of minorities. Has the media got it wrong?
No, there's no question that the media has got it wrong. I mean, see, targeting of minorities is going to be one incident or two incidents. There's no scale. I mean, in a sense that inflation can be a scalar debate between experts and what perceptions happen, and you can rank it. On targeting of minorities itself, we're not debating on a scale per se.
No, but the perception is not as if, you know, Modi has come in and there's been communal polarization. That's not what this survey seems to be suggesting.
I mean, I do think that that is the mood on the ground, that the people don't think that there's been immense polarization. But yes, there have been people, the fringe elements, and the moment they've done what they have, even those who are supportive of the Modi government on other fronts come out and attack because they feel that this might, more than anything else, be that Achilles heels which takes this government down. So the voice effect has been far more. Even the corporate India, which is largely supportive of a new government, the moment these types of things happen, that coalition of understanding literally pulls their hand. So the noise effect may be more, but here we don't have measurables which are quantifiable.
But is it the noise effect then, Enram? Is it the noise effect that is being created, that Narendra Modi has come and communal polarization has increased in this country? The survey is not showing that at the moment. In fact, 57% are even saying, let's have an anti-religious conversion law in this country.
Rajdeep, the survey doesn't measure the ground reality. You can study that independently. Have minorities been targeted? Yes. Is it all over the country? Probably not. But where there are strongholds, are the sung outfits, several of the outfits, indulging in hate politics, in hate campaigns, outrageous offenses against the Constitution, and at least in words as well as deeds? The answer is yes, because these can be studied. The media are doing that, to their credit, the news media. This message has not reached the public all over the place, and that's the gap. That's the gap between the mood and the reality. So I would go by the reality and say that there's a lot of work for the opposition parties, the secular parties, to do. You know, if the real situation, we don't need to exaggerate it. We don't need to exaggerate.
Okay, I take your point.
What actually happens, it has to be,
I take your point, but Javed, you wanted to intervene on this. Is there a gap between reality and what is, how people perceive it? The media seems to perceive that the so-called fringe elements are out there, they are targeting the minorities, but out there people don't seem to believe that at the moment. Certainly a majority don't seem to believe that communal violence has increased.
To be honest, I'm a bit surprised with this finding. Because if whoever you talk to the Christian community, leave the Muslims, you just talk to the Christian community. I went to
the RSS says this is part of a systematic propaganda that has been launched, that in many instances where churches have been attacked by vandals, the impression has been given that this has been done by the Sangh Parivar. How much of this is perceptual? How much of this is reality?
Large bit of it is reality, Rajdeep. In Haryana, when the church was bombed, a saffron flag was hosted. Now that was not a case of vandalism, that was not a case of land grabbing. All such cases are not so. When a Mohan Bhagwat goes and says something, when the governor of a state, forget even Mohan Bhagwat, when the UP governor goes and makes a rank communal statement, then what are people expected to believe then?
But the fact is, then Surjit, is that Mr. Modi, I come back to it, was elected because they felt he would be tough on corruption and price rise. Those are the two issues where people seem to believe the government hasn't done enough. And we thought that the Modi government's Achilles heel at the moment is communal violence. There people are saying Mr. Modi has not really sort of increased, Modi government coming in has not meant a correlation and increase in communal violence. It's an increase in interesting sort of puzzle which seems to be coming through this.
See, again, I was like Javed, I was also very surprised with this answer. Now, trying to explain this, again, it has to do with, I did opinion polls in my youth, and there were two questions that I stopped asking. One was price rise, the other was corruption. This is now back in the 90s, having done polls for about 10 years. They tell you nothing. Now, I think if instead you asked about communal tension, Violence has a particular direct connotation.
That's an
If
interesting
you
point.
said, has social disharmony increased? I mean, you can get people to phrase it properly for
Yes.
in the different languages. I think there's no question it has increased.
It has increased.
Has increased.
That's
communal
interesting.
tension, if you will, that is to say, people, I've never thought about communal issues as much as, if you will.
Is it the media which is responsible for
No, I
it, or
don't
you
think
believe
so.
that the government needs to do more? So
no,
the government
it's not
needs
the
to do
media
more.
which is responsible. It is several fringe elements within the BJP.
You know, we keep calling them fringe elements. The RSS,
maybe
I
they're
must
not
say,
fringe.
the RSS is not a fringe element, but I just want to get one word in before I take a break. The point about bureaucracy. You know, one of the things was that Mr. Modi will come and he will set the government right when it comes to bureaucracy. Now, 21% after international image see that as his big achievement. Do you believe that's happened?
That's not what corporate India believes. It believes that yes, while he sounded very tough on the bureaucracy, the fact is things haven't moved as fast as they could have moved. But Rajdeep, you talked about his development agenda, and there were two questions which were very pertinent. The first was, what does Narendra Modi represent? Back in August, 46% felt he represented development. That's come down to 40%. More importantly, back in August, 24% of the people thought he represented good governance. That has halved now to 12%. That's
So there are worries that he has.
that
Effectively,
he's no
you're
longer
saying-
just about development anymore.
So
in
you're
perception.
saying, and that is in August to today,
That's
there
right.
are serious perceptual problems,
That's right.
image problems that he's facing that he needs now to counter. Some of the strengths of Narendra Modi are turning out in the March of 2015 to be some of his weaknesses.
That's
Maybe that's the consequence of rising expectations. Maybe the expectations that Mr. Modi, that people have had of Mr. Modi are turning out to be a slight trouble for the Prime Minister. Now, we've looked at some aspects of Mr. Modi's, how people are seeing the Modi government. What about the opposition? Take a look when we ask the question, who within the opposition or within the Congress first should be their Prime Ministerial candidate? Who should lead the Congress was the question that we asked. Interesting findings. In 5th place, Anand Sharma, who will be happy when he sees that, he had 5%, the Congress leader in the Rajya Sabha. Ghulam Nabi Azad was 7%. Those are the numbers for Ghulam Nabi Azad. Priyanka Gandhi, 11%. 11% believe that she would be the best PM candidate of the Congress. 13% said Sonia Gandhi. And Rahul Gandhi was 20%. So Rahul Gandhi clearly still is the #1 PM candidate for Congress voters. The India Today Cicero poll then asked, can Rahul Gandhi revive the Congress? And take a look at what the poll now says. 47% say yes, he can. 35% say no, he can't. Can't say is 18. So less than 1 in 2 say Rahul Gandhi can revive the Congress. And now's the interesting figure, because we asked, should Priyanka Gandhi replace Rahul Gandhi? Take a look. 45% say yes, 37% say no, 18 say can't say. But the yes outweighs the no at the moment as per our poll by about 8%. That's an interesting point in which to take to our panel. Javed Ansari, should Priyanka Gandhi replace Rahul Gandhi? You follow the Congress. What are they saying? Do they believe, is there a sense that Priyanka Gandhi is a better bet than Rahul at the moment?
Well, if there's a secret ballot, 99% of them will vote yes.
You are saying that if there is a secret ballot today in the Congress, 99% will say Priyanka Gandhi should replace Rahul Gandhi? In the CWC, in the AICC?
If there is a secret ballot, I still maintain the rank and file of the Congress party will vote overwhelmingly in favor of Priyanka Gandhi.
Sanjay Baru, are you surprised with that? Do you believe that also, that if there was a secret ballot, Javed Ansari is claiming if there was a secret ballot in the Congress, 99% would want Priyanka over Rahul Gandhi?
Well, I'm not surprised. It's the triumph of hope over reality. Rahul Gandhi is the reality and the party is deeply disillusioned. Priyanka is the hope. We have no idea whether she should be any better than Rahul in reviving the Congress party at the grassroots level. So obviously it's a vote against Rahul and a desperate search for an alternative.
You know, that's an interesting way to put it. You know, Manisha Prem, do you also get a sense that is this about hope? You know, the hope that there is, you know, if Rahul can't do it, then Priyanka. It also suggests that the Congress party can't look beyond the family.
Yeah, well, the last one is correct, but if people had been voting as, I mean, I would here go with Javed more than with the survey itself. It's a choice that the Congress party has to be making. And if there were a one-off race between Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, then we would have had clearer answers on who that party believes. But as far as the
No, we asked a direct question. Should Priyanka Gandhi replace Rahul? 45% said yes, 37% said no. So the very fact that almost 1 in every 2, even in a poll like this.
I would see this poising towards Priyanka Gandhi in a very strong way then. Because, you know, the people at large see the Congress as an indecisive party. They're not sure whether, you know, Rahul Gandhi is going to be leading them or not. They see him certainly as a very weak leader. But this kind of saying yes for Priyanka is certainly signaling that there is a strong public opinion that feels that she of the two, if destiny is that they will go by the dynasty rule, then she of the two may be a better candidate, is a clear indication.
I'll come to you, Surjit, in a moment, but let me get N. Ram on that. Do you believe that, N. Ram, that Priyanka Gandhi, that there is a sense of exhaustion, impatience that the voter has with Rahul Gandhi? With Narendra Modi, hopes are very high. So if he doesn't fulfill the hopes, there's disillusionment. With Rahul Gandhi, the hopes and expectations now seem to be becoming negligible. So hope is being transferred to a Priyanka Gandhi.
I think it's pathetic for the Congress to see the alternatives in terms of two siblings. It's pathetic, and I think it shows that desperate state, the low state of the Congress. They should surely try to find. If Rahul Gandhi is not up to it, right now, as Sanjay has said, he's in place, he's the reality. But if he's not up to it, and if, I think they should look elsewhere and not just for these shortcuts, because it's not going to last very long if you swing from Rahul to Priyanka.
What do you mean by elsewhere? Do you believe that the Congress Do you believe that the Congress party can look beyond the Gandhi Nehru? Is it capable of looking beyond the Gandhi Nehru family?
It has to do it. Capable of? Who knows? It has to do it, and pressure must come from below to find a competent leader going beyond this. Otherwise, I think this could come to a dead end.
Sujit Bhalla, yes, go ahead now. Do you share that sentiment that the Congress has now reached a stage, perhaps, where they have to think beyond the Gandhi Nehru family, or at least replace Rahul with Priyanka as a temporary measure, even though I can say this, there are 45% who believe that Rahul can still revive the Congress, at least among Congress voters.
I think I would add another question. If Priyanka Gandhi were to be the leader, what is the vote that you would get? I think it's really about hope. I agree with N. Ram that basically time has come and gone. The dynasty, as far as I'm concerned, and I've said this on your show several times over the last 3 years, it's over. So therefore, I just do not see the possibility of a Gandhi-led Congress achieving anything more than what they got last time. Maybe 10 seats more, but really they have to recognize that that period is over. It was a good innings, it lasted 140, 50 years, and time is now to go.
Javed, is there a feeling within the Congress party that anyone else can come from outside the Gandhi Nehru family, or is that completely ruled out? We've seen in the last 2 weeks Sonia Gandhi playing a much more active role. Is that the eventual answer really, that Sonia Gandhi has to take over the Congress at its weakest moment?
Look, the fact of the matter is that it's not so much about what should happen, but what is happening. And the ground reality in the Congress is that the way the Congress party is structured, I don't see a Congress party in the near future without a Gandhi as the leader. Two, as far as Mrs. Sonia Gandhi is concerned, if Priyanka is not in the picture, it's Sonia Gandhi. Just look at the way she's led in the last 14, 15 days. Congress seems a lot more energized by its own standards and a lot more vigorous than it was in the past. Rahul Gandhi has been missing in action, where political absenteeism is no substitute for leadership. Look at Mrs. Gandhi and look at where Rahul is.
I want to take issue with Javed over there. Just leading protest marches or whatever doesn't show leadership.
It at least shows that someone is out there energizing in the car as Rahul Gandhi has disappeared. I mean, you've got to contrast it with the leader who's disappeared. There's someone who's disappeared, and
land issue.
Yes, absolutely.
Land issue.
The land issue. You can agree or disagree with the merits, but politically she's pinned this government into a corner. They've had to take a step back. They're not talking of a compromise, and they're fighting this big issue of being a pro-rich anti-farmer government.
Do you see the land issue as being a comeback issue for the Congress party?
Certainly a comeback issue for opposition against Mr. Narendra Modi. And look at who leads the debate in the Rajya Sabha, in the Lok Sabha. Young Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia made a very valiant speech.
But you're not going to make him the leader of the party.
That may be true, but it seems therefore therefore, that on the young spot, therefore, Rahul Gandhi is not standing as primus inter pares even on the young spot. So Sonia Gandhi leads, she sits by the side of a Jyotiraditya Scindia who literally leads the petition of the Congress bill versus the BJP bill. So where is the missing Rahul Gandhi phenomena on an issue that's certainly been the one thing that has been the strongest bait that the opposition has got against.
I just want to reflect this Mood of the Nation poll. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, just a minute. Vivek, land acquisition. Is it becoming an issue which is registering and resonating? Because it doesn't seem to suggest at the moment from the figures that I see that it isn't top of the mind at the moment in the manner that it is perhaps increasingly in the media. And this is a rural and urban poll. So land acquisition, again, a lot of noise over it. Opposition may have seized on a good issue, but it doesn't register at the moment or resonate in the manner that one might have presumed.
Rajdeep, as far as the investor community is concerned, they're deeply concerned about this because it's not just about this bill, it's also about GST.
Yeah.
You would have heard every corporate saying that's the magic wand, the next magic wand, and that's a far more complex legislation.
But this country is not run by corporate India. There's also the farmer, there's rural distress, you've had unseasonal rain which has resulted in crop damage.
I'm talking about the mood among the investor community. Let's not forget that they have been the biggest cheerleaders of this government and therefore they are worried. Another point, a quick point, Rajdeep, as far as the economy is concerned, we've been saying it's a wake-up call, right, for Narendra Modi. If you see, the question was a very direct question. Has the Modi government been able to get the Indian economy to improve again? 36% say yes, he has improved the economy, but 29% say no, and he won't do it in the next 6 months. And there is, of course, another 22% who feel that no, the economy hasn't improved, but we expect him to do it in the next 6 months. The point being, the next 6 months is very, very critical.
Okay, we thought the budget was critical. Now we are saying it's the next 6 months that are critical leading up to that Bihar election. Just a minute. The next question that we posed is interesting because we also looked at other leaders. The India Today Cicero poll asked who's the most popular chief minister. And these are the numbers that came up. In 4th place, Mamata Banerjee, 5%, Naveen Patnaik, 5%, but in their home states, Mamata got 31% support in West Bengal. In Odisha, Naveen Patnaik gets 69% support. 3rd place was Chandrababu Naidu, nationally at 6%. In Andhra Pradesh alone, he had 55% of the vote. In 2nd place was Akhilesh Yadav, 8%. In UP, he had 34% of the vote. At number 1 place was Arvind Kejriwal. So Arvind Kejriwal retail is about 17% nationally, Delhi 55%. But remember, this was soon after the Delhi victory. So this is the first fortnight of March, just when the infighting was beginning. But as of now, Arvind Kejriwal still ranks very high. Manisha Priyam, are you surprised? Is the honeymoon effect still there for Kejriwal?
I mean, if this poll is to go by, certainly
so yes. So the honeymoon is still there. So while Mr. Modi's honeymoon period seems to be ending, Mr. Kejriwal still seems to have an honeymoon.
That's an iteration of chronology, so to say. Mr. Kejriwal also, if you see, the first few things that he has had to announce soon after he's put this infighting issue around have been labor-oriented issues, have been social protection issues. And remember, Kejriwal is handling a very different piece of geography from most of the other leaders that you talk about on that map. And therefore, in a sense, Kejriwal's popularity with Modi are incomparables. They are apples and oranges. Modi leads in India, which is India and Bharat, and Kejriwal
I'm just wondering whether the Kejriwal honeymoon is still there, Surjit Balla. You've been a critic of Kejriwal. You've now seen him. Tomorrow he completes, ironically, 49 days in power. Do you see any difference in Kejriwal from his first avatar and the second avatar? Are you still, in a way, skeptical of Arvind Kejriwal?
Well, I think I needn't be skeptical. Just events and facts within the BJP are proving me right.
Aam Aadmi Party.
Okay. Yes. As far as that is concerned, as far as, if Kejriwal is a successful leader after what has happened in his own party with several of his close, if you will, followers and colleagues, then we need to come up with a new definition of leadership. This is not leadership. Second, as far as Kejriwal's in Delhi, he gets only 55% of the vote, whereas it matches Naidu with 55%, and if you will, Naveen Patnaik.
Yeah, he's number 1 nationally. He's number 1 nationally, exactly. But within Delhi.
I'm just asking. Okay. So here are these state leaders who score much more heavily. Here's this guy who got 196% of the seats, and he collapses to 55% and no better. So that's point number 1. And this is before the thing. But last point I wanted to make, as per the Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, when you are 0 you're still zero, even though zero is better than negative.
Okay, Vivek, just a minute, because I just want to get one more figure in, and then we'll... Yes.
I want you to ask this of the other panelists, which is why I'm saying, because this is interesting about the pro-poor, pro-rich question that you've been talking about, Rajdeep. 1 in every 2 people polled feel he works for all sections of society, but 1 in 3, 30% feel he's pro-rich, and only 1 in 6.
This is Narendra Modi.
Yes.
I'm going to come back to that, because I have that question also on my list. Is Mr. Modi seen as pro-rich by 30%, and how will that affect him? But let me just focus on another element which should give Mr. Modi a little bit more satisfaction. The India Today group Cicero Mood of the Nation poll asked, who's the most honest politician? 5% said LK Advani. That's right, he's still around. Sonia Gandhi 5%, Rahul Gandhi 5%. Arvind Kejriwal came second here. 18% said Arvind Kejriwal. So 5% LK Advani, 5% Sonia Gandhi, 5% Rahul Gandhi, 18% Arvind Kejriwal. But Narendra Modi is way out there. 31% feel he's the most honest politician. N. Ram, is there a perception that Narendra Modi, as Javed was pointing out, there's been no big corruption scam for this government? There has been no financial scandal per se that has directly been linked to Narendra Modi, and he's been in power now in Gujarat for a fairly long period, and again now in Delhi. Is that his strength? Is there a sense that Mr. Modi is seen, perceived as personally honest? Even though, as Vivek points out, he's seen as pro-rich.
Yeah, that is incorrect actually. I want to come to that.
Okay,
I want to come to that.
I said half the people feel he is
go ahead.
all sections of society.
Yes, Mr. Ram.
Yes, so that is true that there has been no scandal, and that is the image of Prime Minister Modi. There's no question about it. But on Kejriwal, I sharply differ from what I've just heard, because I think he started out very impressively. He waged a brilliant campaign, and I think all these noises made by the Prashant Bhushans and the Yogendra Yadavs, my friends of course, I think don't matter very much, and the media have magnified them. It's not some profound crisis that has seized the AAP, and I say it objectively. I'm not a party to AAP. I watch it from the outside like everyone else, but I think I'm very impressed by the resilience of Kejriwal, and the fact that your poll shows very positive numbers for him. Surprisingly high numbers at a national
but Mr. Modi,
I think,
but Mr. Modi, but
the
even
real
on the
mood of the people.
My point is, Mr. Modi is being seen as a very honest prime minister. Now, that is his strength at the moment.
Yes, yes, it is true that there have been no scandals, and the prime minister is seen as somebody who's not affected by this and is personally clean. That is a fact.
You know, Dr. Baru, do you believe? It was seen with Manmohan Singh as well. Personally honest, but is he, at the same time, he's seen as someone who hasn't done enough to eradicate corruption. It's interesting, because corruption affects people at the petty level, affects people in their day-to-day life. There's a sense that bureaucratic corruption in this country continues. There's also a sense that there is crony capitalism that still continues in India. But Mr. Modi himself is seen as an honest man. How do you explain this dichotomy? Is this something that Manmohan Singh had to live with and Mr. Modi will have to live with?
Well, you know, Rajdeep, the bigger dichotomy or irony or paradox of your poll is that only 1% of the people polled think Manmohan Singh was an honest politician, while 5% think Rahul Gandhi and 5% think Sonia Gandhi are honest politicians. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, all said and done, Dr. Manmohan Singh was the most honest prime minister we've had, and yet your poll shows that only 1%. I mean, you don't show it on the television. I have those results with me.
Yes.
And I'm quite shocked to see that number. So I really don't know what this perception, you know, what is the basis of all these perceptions.
Remember this poll was done around the same time. This poll was done around the same time when a court summoned Mr. Dr. Singh.
That can't do it.
Yeah, but go ahead. I take your point. I would also be very surprised with that number, so I take your point. But go ahead.
No, I'm saying ordinary people's experience with corruption is with petty corruption. How have they experienced the corruption of the big leaders except what they read in the media? And you're right. I mean, Dr. Singh has been in the media for the wrong reasons, and that may shape this perception. But I think as far as Mr. Modi is concerned, I think N. Ram is entirely right. I think there is certainly no scandal till now, and he has been, in fact, been very strict about the way he has functioned as Prime Minister. So I think that, in fact, I would expect even a larger percentage of people to think that he's an honest politician.
We're just about ending the first half of the program. The sense that you get, and you've been alluding to this, Vivek, is that there is the investor class which went firmly behind the Prime Minister seems relatively disillusioned. They seem to believe things are not moving fast enough. We even asked that question, and that is one of the problems. Yeah. Fast decisions to clear projects is not seen as a great achievement of this government.
Absolutely.
Corruption is not seen, reducing corruption seen not as a great achievement of this government. Are these the areas where this Prime Minister, you said 6 months, the next 6 months in that sense are key. Yes. The investor class is only willing to give Mr. Modi another 6 months, possibly even the Aam Janta is only willing, if vegetable prices
this poll represents the Aam Janta more than that.
That's right.
But the crucial point, Rajdeep, is they love what they've heard so far from him. They love his vision. They love what he has said.
They love listening to Modi.
Yes. But it's now time for action. That's clearly the point coming across the corridors of
So are we saying that in August there was a sense that we were still carried away with the honeymoon effect? Now as we enter March, it's wake-up call time. Absolutely. The honeymoon, as Sanjay Baru said, is over after what are we clear on that the honeymoon is over? Absolutely. Do people still want to listen to Narendra Modi? Let's be clear, he still delivers these fine speeches. Do people still want to go out there and listen to him?
Rajdeep, there's no denying, but they want words, action to match words, and without any clear problems, we can say that the high tide is receding.
No, but when you say that they want action to match what is the action, Surjit Balla? If you want to say 1, 2, 3, what does Mr. Modi need to do to convince the skeptics that truly Achhe Din have come?
No, I think it goes back to what we had discussed earlier, that the high expectations, which were very unrealistically high. So that is one factor that is dominant in this. But I would say what people want, apart from a decline in inflation, which they have got, is an increase in the growth rate. Is an increase in the growth rate.
Yes.
And if you will, jobs, etc. And I think it's the budget. Look, we all had discussed this earlier. The budget is a major defining moment of any government, and particularly this government. We'll have to see what happens now with the land acquisition law. I think that is will be a defining
Let me tell you what Vivek was telling me before the program, what an industrialist told him. He said that the Prime Minister, sorry to borrow your lines, Vivek, but they're very good ones. Where Vivek was told that the Prime Minister believes he's playing a test match and the voter wants a T20 match. The voter wants things delivered now, here and now, because Mr. Modi built himself up as that, as someone who will get things done overnight. He was Superman. Is he suffering because of that? Otherwise, his ratings would be even higher than this.
See, handle agrarian distress. Handling poverty is also about handling agrarian distress in one way.
But that has to be handled by state governments, not just by the Prime Minister of the country.
Just a minute, Rajdeep. The poor of the country voted because they were promised a Gujarat Vikas model. So what the corporate sector thinks they want are one set of things. They want a clean India where investments can be put in, some amount of diversification, a manufacturing type of thing can happen. And what the ordinary or the Aam Janta wants is that their distress be handled in a more substantive way. We can keep talking about the inflation indices. What they want is their household plates balanced. What they want is skills and jobs in the hands of their young ones, their futures to be secured. It's not about jobs, etc. It is about inflation, it is about jobs. Those two promises that won him that massive political mandate. Now the people think that magic wand should perform.
I think you made good points. The magic wand. People thought there was a magic wand in May. They're realizing there is no magic wand. They're now being faced with reality. Jobs, price rise. Even though Surjit may disagree, perhaps because he doesn't buy vegetables in the market.
I do.
Okay, he does. But we're giving you a sneak preview and plenty more. Let's give you the mood of the nation now, the big vote projections. If elections were held today, this is what would happen. The Congress in Lok Sabha 2014 got 19.3%. If elections were held today, only a marginal rise in the Congress, just 0.7% to 20%. UPA in general, Lok Sabha elections 23%. If elections were held today, they'd be where they were, 23%. So the UPA's performance would not change if elections were held today. That's not good news for Sonia Gandhi. For the BJP, Narendra Modi has some good news. Lok Sabha 2014, 31% of the vote just to the BJP. Now we are saying, as per our projections, it is up by 1%. This is a sample across the country, 12,500 respondents between March 1st and March 14th. Vote projections, NDA 38.5%, marginally up 39. So the good news for the NDA is it's holding. Almost a year after being in office, Narendra Modi is still India's Neta #1. Take a look now at how this is all translating. The difference, the gap between the two remains fairly big between the two main parties. The question, of course, is how is all this now going to translate into numbers? If elections were held today in terms of seats, how is the seat projection being done? The Congress got 44 seats in Lok Sabha 2014. The India Today Cicero Mood of the Nation poll says the Congress will have a marginal increase, 48 to 58. That's a midpoint of 53. No major increase for the Congress. How would the UPA fare? Well, 62 to 80 as compared to 59 today. So again, a marginal rise. Only a marginal rise in the opposition's support in the last 11 months. Take a look at where Narendra Modi stands. He got 282 seats, a whopping majority, but he's down. This is the only real point of worry now for the Prime Minister. If elections were held today, we believe, as per the India Today Cicero poll, the BJP would no longer get a majority on its own. 245 to 265 is the new number for the BJP as per our poll, and we'll tell you why in a moment. Lok Sabha 335 last time. We're now saying it's coming down to 284 to 314. Halfway point is still somewhere close to the 300 point. So it's not a major cause of worry, but there is a dip in the BJP NDA support. Where is that coming in a moment from now? This is what we are saying. Remember, comparing Lok Sabha 2014 to 2015, BJP versus Congress, BJP is still way ahead of the Congress. The question is, why is this happening? Vote percentage is still more or less the same, but in seats, the BJP NDA is declining. Where is the BJP losing ground? In Delhi, small state, but still 5% dip. Remember, this is where the Kejriwal effect has come in the last couple of months. Where else is the BJP? And this is the critical state. In UP, our poll is showing BJP down by 5.3. Remember, they swept UP with 72 seats along with the Apna Dal. Now we are saying they're down to 38%. And this is where the BJP is taking a hit nationally at the moment. Rajasthan is the other state with almost a 5% dip where the BJP is taking a hit if polls were held today. So Rajasthan, UP, Delhi, North India is where the BJP at the moment seems to be losing ground. Where is the BJP gaining? And it's important to see that the BJP is also gaining in certain parts of the country, which is what should satisfy Mr. Modi. Telangana, the BJP is up by 6.4%. So gaining in Telangana, BJP emerging as a rising force there, but elections were held only last year in Telangana. Where else is the BJP gaining? Odisha, elections again held only last year, BJP gaining 5.5%. The other state where the BJP is gaining is Kerala, up by 5.2%. So they're gaining votes in the south. I can also tell you that our survey shows a 3% gain for the BJP in Bengal and 2% in Bihar. So two states which are going to the polls, Bihar and Bengal, the BJP is slowly gaining. Those are our first findings of our poll. Let's then take a look at how are these being interpreted by our panel. Our panel of experts are here with us. Javed Ansari, our National Affairs Editor, Vivek Law, Business Editor of the India Today Television Group. Also with us, Manisha Priyam, Senior Political Analyst. Also with us is our friend and Senior Political Economist, Surjit Bhalla. N. Ram, former Editor-in-Chief of The Hindu. Sanjay Baru, the former Prime Minister's Press Advisor is with us. Manmohan Singh's Press Advisor. And Sachin Pilot of the Congress has joined us. We hope to be joined by Nalin Kohli of the BJP in a while. He's there with us. So appreciate both of you, the first politicians joining us. And let me get first quick responses to that. Sachin Pilot, you first. From the Congress perspective, no major gains, only marginal gains in the last 7 or 8 months since we did our last poll in August. So the mood of the nation still seems to be anti-Congress. Or certainly not pro-Congress.
But the numbers I've heard you say, Rajiv, certainly indicate towards the direction in which people are looking now to see. Don't forget the first year of the government with a huge majority after 30 years of a full mandate that the BJP got. They could have built much more upon it in the last 11 months. Now, I think we've had spate of elections. We had Jharkhand, we had Maharashtra, we had Delhi, Haryana. So all these state elections also kept the election machinery going, and people weren't able to judge the work of the government. I think the tall promises made by the BJP and by the Prime Minister himself have come to a point where people now start demanding the delivery on the ground. I think if you look at some of the states that you mentioned in the report, states in North India, especially in Uttar Pradesh and also in states like Rajasthan, the vote share of the BJP has come down, and I think that's also because of the fact that the expectations were so high. I mean, they put the bar so high for themselves that they became a victim of their own propaganda. And so today they realize that with a weak bench strength, the Prime Minister can't deliver on all the promises and tall claims they made. Internal security, border skirmishes, law and order, black money, the international oil prices not being transferred to the end consumer. All these issues are much more difficult to grapple with when you're in the government, and that's what I think the BJP and the NDA are realizing.
I mean, it's nice to see you clutching to straws. Your home state of Rajasthan certainly is showing an improvement for the Congress, but it's not nationwide, and it's only marginal increase in terms of seats. But you are seeing, you believe, some kind of a dip in the BJP which gives you hope. And that worry for you, Nalin Kohli, is particularly in Uttar Pradesh. The good news for you is you're holding your own in Bihar. The good news for you is you're gaining a bit in a state like Bengal, which goes to the polls next year, and Assam, which goes to the polls next year. But in UP, which really propelled you to power, you are dipping. Should that worry you? Should any numbers that I've read out worry you at all or not?
No, actually, Mr. Sardesai, honestly speaking, I'm very happy to see what you are predicting out there. And unlike the Congress party and Mr. Pilot, I don't even need to clutch at any imaginary straws. The arguments are very clear and they are obvious. This is actually a mood survey. This is not a seat survey. And I think we all understand what is a survey that is a seat projection based and what's a mood survey. An opinion poll or a mood survey is essentially gauging the mood. So the questions of the mood are very important. To extrapolate that into seat projections, yes, it can be done.
No, we also asked. We also asked them who would you vote for.
I would say.
We asked them who would you vote for. The one state where you are taking a bit of a hit is Uttar Pradesh.
If you just hear me out, just give me the luxury of only finishing my point, and I'll take as many questions as you want.
Yes.
So coming back to it, in a mood survey, because there is no election, the election will be more than 4 years later. And electoral outcomes are best predicted closer to the election. By that standard, if you start doing an election outcome today for Uttar Pradesh in 2017, or the 3 other states where the BJP is in power in 2018, you would be way ahead of your times. But yes, you could do a mood about whether the government is broadly performing, not performing. So the parameters that for me are important is A, that you are pointing out that the BJP vote share, broadly, nationally speaking, which is your survey about, shows an increase. In terms of seats, you are showing a minor change, not anything what I would consider drastic. With regard to it, I'll be interested to know, how is the Prime Minister's personal rating? How is the government being perceived? What are the issues? And these are the things, as they become clear, perhaps we could discuss more.
Okay, we've come to those issues earlier in the program. Price rise, corruption, these are being seen as issues where the government needs to do more. The Prime Minister's personal ratings have come down from about 54% in August to about 36% now. They still remain high, but that is a substantial dip. Surjit Bhalla, am I to say there are 2 ways to look at any poll? The BJP could say the glass is half full. We're still more or less where we were 11 months ago in the general election. The other way to look at it is we are taking some kind of a dip in some key states where we did spectacularly last time. Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh being 2 examples of it. The Prime Minister's personal popularity, which is a figure that I will again ask my producer to flash, has come down from 54 to 37%. How is this to be interpreted? Glass half full or glass half empty for Mr. Modi and his government?
No, I think it's half empty.
Half empty?
Half empty in the sense that, look, if you add up the various signs, they all point in the same direction.
Which is?
Which is that, listen, the BJP government, Narendra Modi, has something to worry about, whereas 6 months ago they had nothing to worry about. So therefore, when your popularity goes down by 20 percentage points, even though it is higher than anybody else has achieved, it's the decline, it's the delta, it's the change. All the elements of change are pointing in the same direction. Either the expectations have not been fulfilled, so you're less happy than you were before, or more unhappy than
But it's a slight dip. It's not a major. It's not as if there is any anger against Mr. Modi.
Absolutely.
There's a sense that the high hopes which he has instilled in people have not been fulfilled.
And also that there is no viable opposition.
There's no viable opposition, which is also...
That is what is saving them.
Okay, glass half full or half empty? from a BJP's perspective?
Well, I'm saying from the Rajasthan perspective, certainly glass half full. Now, if you see, the Rajasthan Chief Minister as well as the Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister have had to take a direct ground route, and they're talking to their farmers directly. They're touring their rural areas as if it were elections. That's the kind of agrarian distress that you've begun to see in heartland India.
So that is the worry, that this poll has been done at a time of agrarian distress, which is bad news for any ruling government, whether in the state or at the center.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's point taken. Given that, let me then point out, since Nalin Kohli also wanted to know the performance of the government, and then I'll get Sanjay Baru and Enram to respond to that. The India Today group, Cicero Mood of the Nation poll, performance of the BJP-led central government. 16% said it was poor, 40% are saying it was average, 33% are saying it was good, outstanding is 8. Now what is happening therefore is that it appears that people are divided. Enram, if this poll was done 11 months ago, we saw outstanding and good far outnumbered average and poor. Now it's evening out. Is that a sign of worry for the BJP government or normal for any government once the honeymoon period is over?
No, I think it's not just a natural dip after the honeymoon period is over. I think there is cause for worry. And also, Rajdeep, there's another factor we haven't even begun to discuss. This 38%, which I see your numbers, which you assign to the others, it's more or less the same from last time, from the Lok Sabha election.
Yes.
If the opposition gets its act together, if the index of opposition unity, as it used to be called, improves, then I think the BJP could be in serious trouble in several states. So that's a critical factor, which also partly explains the number. For example, in Bihar, can they unify the anti-BJP votes when the assembly elections come? That will be critical, I think, and perhaps the opposition is beginning to understand the importance of this now.
Sanjay Baru, is there more and more evidence as this poll goes on that the honeymoon period is over, or do you believe that Mr. Modi still remains, as other figures show, Neta number 1? He's well ahead, and because, as someone said, where is the opposition? Therefore, his stature continues to be, more or less where he was earlier, because the opposition is nowhere. In comparison, he still stands out.
Well, first, yeah, look, 3 points easily made. One, is Mr. Modi Neta number 1? Yes, he's still Neta number 1. Is the honeymoon period over? Yes, the honeymoon period is over. If there is no opposition, there is no opposition. I mean, Rahul Gandhi is finished. So all those are easy to answer. And on your question of half full or half empty, you've forgotten the famous quotable quote of the Prime Minister. I think Mr. Modi once said, a glass is never empty, it's half full with water and half full with air. So in that sense, it depends on how you want to interpret the verdict of the last of your opinion poll. I think the overall consensus, I would go along with what Surjit said, which is we began with very high expectations. People thought that the Prime Minister had a magic wand. They realized that that has not happened. There is not just in the corporate sector, but middle classes, farmers, there is a certain level of unrest, not because, as again Surjit said, because inflation is very high, but there are several factors working against the government's kind of current popularity. The only ray of hope for the opposition is that gentleman sitting on your panel from Rajasthan, Sachin Pilot. I think he deserves compliments for what he's doing in Rajasthan. I wish the Congress party had the sense to make someone like him the president. He can show them how to turn the party around.
You're going to embarrass Sachin Pilot by saying that. Sachin Pilot, before you came in, we did one of the questions we asked was on Rahul Gandhi, and it said 47% felt that Priyanka Gandhi should replace Rahul Gandhi. I'm sure if we'd asked the question, should Sachin Pilot replace Rahul Gandhi, we might have got a fairly large number as well. As this survey is showing, yes, Mr. Modi's popularity is taking a dip, but the Congress is not recovering as a result of that. Even in UP, it's the regional parties which are growing. So are you willing to take up that responsibility if you were offered it?
Rajdeep, I think the important point is that Congress party is made of many leaders. Now, in terms of the Prime Minister had promised and 20%
You're not answering my question.
11 months.
You're shifting away from my question. Do you believe you need a leader? To exploit some element of disillusionment with Mr. Modi? There's some disillusionment because his expectations were high. Who's going to capture it?
Rajdeep, you have to also... You are capturing the mood of this country, but also have patience to understand that the Congress party is also revamping itself, and before long you will see a Congress party that will lead from the front in the opposition party. I am very proud of the work that my workers are doing and I am doing in Rajasthan.
But your leader is missing.
The government is now
I'm sorry to focus on it again. Your leader is missing. You're saying you're going to revive with a missing leader?
I think you can speak as much as you want about Mr. Gandhi and what he's doing or not doing. The fact of the matter is that he's the party's vice president and he's entitled to take time off. When he comes back, and we will all do that together unitedly. Also, don't forget that 2 elections, 2004 and 2009, we won those 2 elections back to back for the first time in 30 years under the leadership of Mrs. Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, and they continue to lead us. They are people who are leading us from the front. You can criticize and appreciate as you wish, but the Congress workers in the party is completely united, and we will take on this government head on issues that are pertinent and not go on to frivolous issues about who 1 or 2 or 4 individuals. The Congress party, I think, today is geared up to make this government accountable.
No, so what is that issue? What is that issue? What is that issue which is going to make you come back? These numbers are showing the Congress party is at the moment still static.
Rajdeep, I think the people of India are far more important than any political party and the future of Congress and the BJP. When the people have been promised security, black money will return, there will be no skirmish and bombing on the borders, the inflation will decrease, jobs will be given, all those white promises were made and people bought those promises. The great communicator that our Prime Minister is now not able to communicate why he's changed his stance on the Land Acquisition Act.
Right.
And the farmers of this country, the organizations and all political parties want to ask that very pertinent question. In 8 months' time, what circumstances forced you to take a U-turn, and they can't explain.
Okay.
Today in Bangalore, they're deciding how to reach out to people and explain their position on the land bill. We are getting accountable.
You know, can I just come to that question? And this, Nalin, and to my other panelists is important because I'm going to add it to the question about performance of BJP-led government. We also asked in the India Today Cicero poll, the Delhi debacle that the BJP suffered in February, was it a wake-up call for Modi? 54% said yes. 54% said yes, it is a wake-up call. What happened in Delhi is a wake-up call. 31% said no, can't say, is 15%. Now the worry for you, Nalin Kohli, and then I'll bring Javed and Nalin on this and Vivek on this, is that you've got a situation where 16% say your government's performance is poor and 40% say average. So that's 56% there. And 54% say Delhi is a wake-up call. Is the BJP aware that the honeymoon period is over? That it's not business as usual? It's not just Narendra Modi who can come on the stage and show his chappan ki chhati and people will just vote for him? They want more than rhetoric.
Well, people want performance. It's not about more than rhetoric, Mr. Sardesai.
That's right.
And that's exactly what we have come. We've come on that promise. We believe in that promise. And it has to be delivered. But as it evidently is, when you get down to governance, it's going to take time to show those results. That doesn't mean that green shoots are not showing. Let's go one by one. Of course, you did, I think you did Mr. Pilot a personal disfavor by, wanting to project him as an alternative to Mr. Gandhi. That's a complete taboo area. Let's leave that out with the pyramid of the Congress party. He's entitled to his good work. So moving that aside and moving ahead, the Congress party slept from 2011 to 2014. They couldn't even have a cabinet decision on a Supreme Court order form the SIT on black money, and we today have to hear about black money from the Congress.
Are you saying? Are you saying?
We let our work show.
Do you see a wake-up call?
Let me go.
Do you see a wake-up call in these numbers? Do you see a wake-up call?
The land acquisition bill. Let me come to that. I'll come to it, Mr. Sardesai. The land acquisition bill, 1894 to 2013, when the first change has come in with a new law. It took 120 years, of which in independent India, the Congress has ruled 55 years. That's their commitment to how land acquisition should be. We don't need these crocodile things. The people of India want delivery in terms of governance. Mr. Modi is on that promise. The party is on that promise. The government is on that promise. And of course, the people of India, the people of India will certainly vote whether we've delivered or not in 2019.
Okay.
So we are entitled to work, believe that we are doing our work. We let them stamp. Now coming to the wake-up call that you're saying.
Yes.
Delhi is a loss. Preceding that, we've done very well electorally. We have won elections, we have lost. There has never been an election that we've lost that we haven't learned from. Otherwise, the BJP from the days of the Jung Sung down to up and down to 2 seats in 84.
What is the lesson you learned from Delhi? Give me the one lesson you've learned after Delhi. What is the one big lesson you've learned after Delhi? The only,
No, I think we've learned. No.
Yes. What is the lesson you've learned?
Well, let me answer that. I think, Mr. Sardesai, it's not going to be one lesson. There are many lessons.
Give me one.
We know those lessons, but whether we want to, no, 1 minute, hold on. Whether we want to share it on national television is a choice that we have. But we have learned our lessons. We know what is gone. Obviously, if we have lost an election, we need to learn something from it. You don't celebrate a lost election.
No, I take your point. But Vivek Law, let's be clear from the numbers. And you were giving me numbers of perception in terms of whether Mr. Modi is seen as pro-rich. You know, these have been some of the factors which seem to work against them in the Delhi election. Certainly, Kejriwal tried to exploit that, tried to show that the Prime Minister was a Khas Aadmi, not an Aam Aadmi. Is there a sense in this poll that Mr. Modi needs to, is there a wake-up call somewhere in the numbers that you're seeing? Some things on the political economy that Mr. Modi needs to be aware of? Nalin Kohli is making one point. Look, this is a 5-day match, 5 years. We are only not even finished year 1. Judge us at the end of 5 years, which is fair. But is there something in terms of promise versus delivery where Mr. Modi needs to worry about even today?
Well, clearly, Rajdeep, the investor class wants Mr. Modi to be the Prime Minister. Let's be very clear about that. They say that, yes, we've heard great vision. They believe in him. The problem is the execution on the ground, translation of the ideas and what they've heard has not happened at the pace at which they thought that would happen. That's the underlying.
So it's an impatience that the change needs to be much faster.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem that Mr. Modi has, because let's be honest, our system is not going to change overnight.
Exactly.
You know,
That's
is that part of the problem that with Achhe Din, Mr. Modi raised expectations so high that people thought he would do it in 3 months. You know, whether it's then black money, whether it's all, you know, these are issues which can't be, you can't bring back black money overnight, even if
just a quick comment.
You know, is that what is hurting the BJP at the moment, and the failure of the Congress to capitalize on it?
Look, what is certainly helping them is the fact that there is no opposition. There's no alternative to Mr. Narendra Modi in terms of a leader.
So you don't go by the Sachin Pilot thesis that the Congress is galvanizing itself, the Congress is ready to take. Do you sense any real energy in the Congress in the last few months at all?
In the last fortnight, maybe some, thanks to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. But having said that, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, there is no doubt that he remains the tallest leader at the moment. There is no competition to him from anybody, least of all from the Congress, and that will continue. But yes, there is a huge mismatch between words and delivery on the ground, and this will hurt. And the other problem which could hurt, and it hurt them in 2004, is this perception which has begun to gain ground that this is a pro-rich government and an anti-farmer government.
Is that a fair criticism, you believe, Surjit, that this is a pro-rich and an anti-farmer government? Is there anything in this survey which suggests that? Because there is enough in this survey to suggest that people still have faith in Mr. Modi. They just want him to deliver.
Yeah. Now, if you're talking about delivery, I guess if your survey had asked another question like this, is the Congress poor? They would have said, yes, this Congress is poor. And we've seen what they've done for the poor or not done for the poor for the last 60 years. Second, this particular question had the following responses. 47% think that the Modi government has worked for both the rich and the poor. 47, half of them. 16% believe this work for poor, according to your question, and 30% pro-rich. So basically, if I look at the data, there are 14% people in the country, 1 out of every 7 or 8, who think that it is pro-rich. That is not, that's not even a single.
So it's not something that should be a big concern for Mr. Modi at all.
Absolutely not.
So while some would interpret this poll as a wake-up call, others would say it's simply a question of Mr. Modi having raised hopes so high that people are hoping sooner or later he delivers.
I'm saying it's a wake-up call.
RSS certainly believes that this is a wake-up call.
RSS believes it's a wake-up call.
When they had this interaction with the BJP leadership, this is what they told them. You're suffering from an image problem. You need to correct this pro-rich image, or else there'll be a huge political price to pay.
And I think RSS is a wake-up call.
Quick response, Manisha.
I think for once I agree with what Surjit had to say. There is a certain sense with which both the rich and the poor think that the Modi government is the government for them. They put their hopes behind it for different sets of issues. Now I just want to unpack what is called raised expectation bar. Look, Modi didn't come in that raised expectation bar. He came saying, I am going to do concrete things. He came saying Gujarat model, For him, the precursor was not any Garibi Hatao or not any Narebazi. Yes, certainly an agenda, long historical agenda of the BJP, but Modi was not saying any of that. He went around on over 500 rallies promising very concrete different areas of the country. So it's not wrong for the people now to say that if there is a concrete blueprint of the Gujarat, when do I, of the 5 years that you're going to be there, when do I begin to see even the model, that concrete blueprint of what you just came and said? Okay. Now remember, he's gone around saying not just jobs, he said agriculture here, he said tribal university there, he said he'll do things for students. If you just trail those rallies, you will find that people are sitting with concrete expectations. And that's the kind of, now this is not raised expectation. The other point is that people are not looking, even the poor are not looking for poverty reduction. They are looking for social mobility routes.
I take your point, but before I take a break here, N. Ram, you know, let's be clear, and we re-emphasize this. This is 300 days into a government. A government is there for 5 years. Mr. Modi is not going anywhere for 5 years. Therefore, Mr. Modi must believe that he can deliver over an extended period, that it's unfair to judge him at the end of 300 days, and there is a perception that we'll again judge him at the end of 1 year in about 65 days from now. Do we need to give Mr. Modi more time, or is the voter simply impatient now?
I think it's the voter doesn't seem to be highly impatient, but and certainly he has time to make up and so on. But I think from what I've heard, especially from Mr. Kohli, yes, they are tremendously underestimating, at least in public, the certain negative trends that have been seen in the polity that are taking their toll. And I think they're just dismissing the Congress is no use, even to themselves, even for their own morale, because the Congress cannot go down much further, and the rest of the opposition will also matter. So I think there is cause for somewhat serious worry, you know, from the numbers we have seen, from the issues that have been projected, but he has time.
Nalin Kohli and Sachin Pilot, first you, Nalin Kohli, is there a sense that, you know, once you win such a big victory, like the kind you won in 2014, a certain complacency sets in, and at times arrogance does. Today when I ask you, give me the one factor that you learned from the Delhi debacle, you say, I don't need to tell it on national TV. Now someone who's listening to you might feel that Nalin Kohli is not worried because we are here for 5 years. Okay. Why don't you, you know, are you suffering from what the Congress suffered from? That, you know, a certain element of hubris, that nobody can touch us.
No. Mr. Sardesai, my wanting to share my party's learnings with you is as much as you wanting to on national television compare yourselves with Times Now, NDTV or any of the other channels, Newsec, and say this is my strategy for the TRP gain. It doesn't work like that. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Okay. Of course, and I say it with humility. The public always puts out something. You're in public life, I'm not. To be learned. Now, if you don't learn the lesson, you are just going to simply repeat the mistakes and have to suffer them.
So tell me the one mistake. Tell me the one mistake. I want to clarify. You don't want to tell me the one mistake. You don't want to tell me the one mistake.
I don't want to, because survey shows. No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Yes.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I don't want to share it. I'm not authorized, or nobody has asked me to go out and talk on it. Okay. And I'm not going to do the task which many people who may have also, who have sat in those meetings, done it and shared it only on a personal basis, would like it. It's not correct. Okay. And I would not like to do something which I consider ethically incorrect.
Is the Congress...
part is...
Yes, second
so I've got your point. Mr. Ram said, he raised something important.
Yes.
Mr. Ram said something very important.
Yes.
No, sir, we don't underestimate anything. We are not supposed to. We are supposed to only focus on what we've said and go out there and do our work. We can only hope that our work will speak for whatever we've said. Now, with regard to it, I'll give you 2 or 3 quick examples. Right. They take time to show results, but we are confident they would. 100 crore rupees has been saved because over 2 lakh people have given up voluntarily the LPG subsidy, which because they shouldn't have been having it in the first place. Now, that's not something big, but it's 100 crore rupees now in the kitty of Government of India available. Social security is something being spoken about, soil health card on a national scale. Now, of course, those results won't come in today, but should they not be done? That's the responsibility of the government. I spoke of black money earlier. Now, when we say that governance has to be delivered, people's impatience, as you mentioned about, is there because so far we've not probably worked with a longer term vision to come clean in terms of a model that works for everyone. Obviously they are impatient because in the past they may have not seen it. But should we reject it? No. We have to work. The only thing that will change it is work and delivery on the ground. And nothing else will.
And Sachin Pilot, just a word for you before I take that break. We'll come to specific programs in a moment. But is there a sense that the Congress also is somewhere hoping that Mr. Modi trips up? That Mr. Modi fails without having to do anything itself? Because I haven't seen one thing that the Congress has also done in these 11 months that suggests that the Congress is galvanizing to exploit any weaknesses of this government.
Why? It's leading protest march.
Well, as a constructive opposition, we have got to be able to keep the government in check. The numbers really are insignificant because as a party, we are a pan-national party. I remember two figures that the BJP gave out, 6 lakh crores and 100 days. We'll bring back black money in 100 days. They didn't say we'll form a SIT in 100 days. They said we'll bring 100 days में 6 lakh crores and 15 lakh rupees in each family's account in deposit. These are all promises made by the BJP itself. So am I wrong to ask those questions? Am I not obliged to ask the question to the BJP who's in government for now 300 days? And as far as the Congress party is concerned, Rajdeep, we have taken a beating in the Lok Sabha elections, and certainly this is our worst ever performance. And like Mr. Ram said, we really can't get any worse. So we've got to put up our own presence in the minds of the people, and we're doing it. It'll take some time. But look at what was promised to the people. These concrete expectations have now been devastated, and as time goes by, this has become a one-man show. Look at the ministers in this government, Giriraj Singh, Saji Niranjan Jyoti, the statements they're making, the kind of intolerance we're seeing, all these things add to the negative perceptions this government has got on itself, and they have nobody else but themselves to blame for it.
Let me then take a break. The negative perceptions versus the positive perceptions of the Prime Minister. This is an interesting poll. The Prime Minister himself is perceived very positively. His government is being perceived increasingly as average. Is there a mismatch? Should that mismatch lead to a wake-up call for the Prime Minister? The honeymoon is over. Clearly, the Prime Minister perhaps needs to take charge now. Strong positive perception for the Prime Minister in the mood of the nation, India Today Cicero poll, but an average perception for his government on key facts, including bringing down corruption and on price rise and farmers' issues. How is the government going to tackle this mismatch? What are the challenges before Narendra Modi? Now, two of his pet projects have been Swachh Bharat and Make in India, or pet ideas that he has been projecting. Now, 41%. Let's take a look at Swachh Bharat first. 41% of those polled, and 12,500 is our sample size, says Modi's pet project and pledge will make India cleaner. 29% say the implementation on the ground is impractical, and 17% said it's impossible to achieve. So clearly there is again hope that Mr. Modi will change things, but there is also an element of skepticism whether actually things will dramatically change on the ground. And that's perhaps really reflecting this kind of dilemma that the voter at the moment seems to find himself in. Then we look at, whether this Swachh Bharat campaign has helped in your locality. 29% said there's been a lot of improvement. 36% said there's been some improvement. So that's good sign for the Prime Minister. 16% said there's no improvement. 8% said the condition has deteriorated. So clearly there is hope with the Swachh Bharat campaign. It seems to be working at the moment for the Prime Minister. There's also Make in India. What's the verdict on Narendra Modi's other pet project, which is the project of Make in India? Now, 52% have given it a thumbs up, 20% said it's bad, and 16% were indifferent. So again, there's a positive air which Make in India is providing the Prime Minister. That's interesting the way it's playing out at the moment, that on his key projects, Vivek, Swachh Bharat, Make in India, there's a sense of positive energy that the Prime Minister brings. People are still in pause mode, almost, as the survey says, waiting to see whether this will translate on the ground. Is that how industry sees Swachh Bharat, sees Make in India, for example?
Absolutely. That's the whole point, Rajdeep, which we've been making. The ideas are fantastic. Investors, domestic, global, love these ideas. The question is how quickly they can be put into implementation. Let's take Make in India. The number says very clearly that it's overwhelmingly in favor of this entire idea. What is this idea? It's about saying more manufacturing here in India means more jobs, and that is what a critical issue is as far as the economy is concerned. So everybody, of course, wants it to succeed. The question is...
we want Swachh Bharat to succeed, we want Make in India to succeed. They are good ideas, the Prime Minister markets them well, but people are still waiting for real delivery.
Absolutely.
So it's that gap. Are we in that gap period, Surjit, between promise and delivery? And how long is this gap period that Mr. Modi has? He's in power for 5 years. How long can a gap period exist between promise and delivery?
But you know, on Swachh Bharat, I mean, I'm surprised because that has to do with delivery. 29% actually believe it's happened and 41% are quite satisfied. So that's actually delivery. I'm surprised that the number is that high. But there goes that one. And as far as Make in India, 52% is overwhelming support. So I think on these two issues, and plus, you know, I think we are getting too much into the bashing Modi mode. If you look at the economic policies he's introduced, they are actually phenomenal. It's the other side, which we've also been discussing.
But is it going to take time? For example, infrastructure, you know, is the
infrastructure allocation.
Is the Indian voter willing to be patient with Narendra Modi?
That's the question. That's the question. I think that's an important question. I just think the game has just started as far as the economic delivery is concerned.
Okay.
And that's in his favor. The other side is not in his favor.
Let me therefore come to that question. How do you see Modi's image? That's what we asked. What does Prime Minister Narendra Modi represent? An interesting finding. 40% of those who were polled said Narendra Modi represents development. 18% said communal intolerance. 16% said Hindu nationalism. Add communal intolerance, Hindu nationalism, it comes to 34%. 12% said good governance and 6% said inclusive leadership is what Mr. Modi represents. Do you concede that, N. Ram, that Mr. Modi, 40% development, and if I add good governance, that's almost half believe, 12%, 52% believe Modi represents development and good governance. Now, critics like you in the past have said that Modi is still seen to focus on a Hindutva agenda, communal intolerance comes with this government. Are we getting him wrong there?
I think Mr. Modi has a real image problem because he made a big promise on development and it hasn't faded away. But the point that he's not seen as somebody who lives up to the constitutional values, if he says that he believes in communalism or he believes in Hindu nationalism, I think that's pretty reflective of the national mood, because the more and more they act, the song goes around and shows its program. I think people are seeing the reality. And I think it's quite a worrying thing. He's got a real image problem in that.
You know, you see that as an image problem.
What is it? 34, more than one third.
So you see that as an image problem. I take it, but the other way for me to look at it, and Sachin Pilot, this is the critical question, that you may harp on Narendra Modi from the perspective of Hindu nationalism and communal intolerance. 52% see him from the perspective of development and good governance, which is perhaps why he also won the 2014 election. He didn't win it out of Hindu nationalism. He won the election because he was seen to represent what was perceived as the Gujarat model of good governance.
No, I don't agree with you. I think the facade of investment, governance and administrative reform that he promised to bring was all in the front. At the back was the right-wing Hindu forces, and that is why in UP they swept the polls. It became a religious election, I think very subcutaneous layer. But the other point I want to make is that the image issue is something that he may have to deal with. It's the government of the day. This is a federal structure. There is a collective responsibility. It's not a one person's job. You can be the Prime Minister, but there is a cabinet, there is a parliament, there is some structures that are being put in place. The expectations was raised by the Prime Minister himself when he was campaigning. Nobody asked him to make those promises, and today people are there. And
but people are appreciating his ideas. People are appreciating his ideas like Swachh Bharat and Make in India.
The ideas, who can say that the idea of getting more jobs is a bad idea? Who can say that cleaning India is a bad idea? But to monopolize it, to make it look like it's your brainchild, and then to make political capital out of it, I think people can see through that. And you know, this 1 year is supposed to be the best part of this government when they have full majority. They could have actually built on that credibility and increased those numbers. A 20% decrease in that popularity for him alone, I think is reflective of how people are beginning to see him. It's far too early to call a final result on this, and I think Nalin agrees. This is just a mood, and the mood certainly is not not as good as they would have wished for.
Would you agree with that, at least, Nalin Kohli, that the mood is quite not what it was in August? In August, there was a buoyancy. Mr. Modi had higher ratings than Mr. Vajpayee or any Indian Prime Minister surveyed in an India Today poll. Now it's coming down to relatively average levels where the Prime Minister is 36, 35%. So it isn't quite what it was in August, and that's just over 8 months. Is that a worry for you?
No, I'll first come to some substantial points, what Mr. Pilot raised, and before that, Mr. Bhalla, about the economic delivery. First of all, let's go that the ideas are not new. Yes, having accounts, bank accounts for Indians was not a new idea. It was part of the nationalization plan of banks by Mrs. Indira Gandhi in the 70s. Then did Indians get bank accounts? They didn't. 12.5 crore, that's 125 million accounts have opened between August and now. Why couldn't it have been done in the last 40 years?
70% of those have no money in them.
I told you.
70% of those, you know, the worry is at times there's a lot of intelligent marketing.
Rajdeep, no, Rajdeep. If you don't have a bank account, that's the starting point. That's the next thing which you have to work on. So therefore, by your standards, don't build a road, because at the end of the road, somebody may not have a vehicle to take that road. They are only capable of walking. That's not an argument. That's absolutely fallacious. Let's go to the next part of it. That let's say coal, 2 lakh crores has come in from the auctions of some 20 odd blocks. Why couldn't it have been done earlier? That is what Prime Minister Manmohan Singh proposed in 2004. We know what happened thereafter. More than 1 lakh crores has come in spectrum. And by the way, those 2 lakh crores goes to the states. They don't go to the center. So I mean, things are being done. You've spoken of Make in India, you've spoken of Swachh Bharat. One example on Swachh Bharat, when a girl from Nagaland is there in Kashi, working on Swachh Bharat, cleaning of Ganga individually on a daily basis, posting her pictures, the Prime Minister has also tweeted that or put it out on his Facebook, that shows people are captivated. You know, maybe change is slow for some, but change is happening. You know, whether they will be good enough for the mood in 2019, you have to wait.
You know, can I put it this way, in medical terms, Sanjay Baru, that Narendra Modi is bringing change, but in homeopathic doses. And this country needs more than homeopathic doses of change. And the mismatch is what could trouble him, you know, is something he could possibly trip over in the years ahead. Is that a worry? Or as long as he comes up with ideas like, or slogans like Make in India, Swachh Bharat, the Modi juggernaut will continue?
Let me make 2 points. I mean, you had a long discussion which is completely meaningless on that chart that you had on good governance and Modi's leadership.
Yes.
It shows that 58%, you know, if you could bring that chart back onto your television screen.
Yes.
You know, on development, good governance and inclusive leadership.
Yes.
You add those 3 up,
yes,
he is getting 58%.
That's right.
And then you have these 2 questions about communal politics and Hindu nationalism.
Yes.
I mean, you can't add those 2 into a negative. If you ask an ordinary Indian, are you a Hindu nationalist? Most people would say yes without thinking that's an offensive thing. You're Hindu and you're a nationalist. That's not negative. That's not, say, being communal.
So you're saying on all criteria Modi has positive, except for communal intolerance. On all other criteria he has positive values.
You put that chart out, you'll see that, you know, the question you're asking is, what does Narendra Modi represent? 12% say good governance, 6% say inclusive leadership, 40% say development, 16% say Hindu nationalism. I don't know why you interpret that as communalism, because it's the 18% who say communal intolerance. That is what we should be worried about, that this government has exhibited that intolerance, and that 18% is not acceptable. So, you know, I think that discussion that went on for the last 10 minutes, which I was just listening to, I thought was a crazy, you know. But on your other question, I come back to the point that this government started at a point where expectations were just too high. Let us not forget that the election of May 2014 was an election in which a large number of people were simply so fed up with the UPA and with Rahul Gandhi's leadership that they voted the Congress out. It was as much a vote for Narendra Modi as it was a vote against the Congress. In my own state of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it was a vote against the Congress. It was not a vote for Narendra Modi, right? So, large parts of the country, it was a vote by West Bengal. It was not a vote for Narendra Modi, it was a vote against the Congress and the left, and so on and so forth. And those people who voted against someone and brought this government are not happy at the pace of things.
Okay.
So there is a level of impatience, and I think the government has to recognize that.
Okay, the level of impatience, which is going to, Javed, as someone who's followed politics, is there a sense that there is a level of impatience, or is there a feeling that Modi inspires hope and faith, and we are willing to give him a chance, provided he's, if we summarize the poll, we are willing to give him a chance, provided he delivers on basic issues. That as long as prices are under control, as long as there is a sense that the corrupt are sent to jail, as long as there is a sense that this is a prime minister who's energetic, he will be given the benefit of the doubt. Because at the end of the day, look at what you have on the other side. At the other side, you have a leader who's missing in action. 44 days and we don't know where Rahul Gandhi is. We have Aam Aadmi Party, which is in disarray with its leaders leaving the party, senior leaders having been thrown out of the party. Mr. Modi still stands out in comparison.
Rajdeep, these are early days yet, and some dip in popularity is expected. But it's also time for him to deliver on his promise. People are getting extremely impatient, and Mr. Modi must exhibit greater proactiveness in reining in the Sangh Parivar and ensuring that his development agenda does not get drowned out by the likes of Mohan Bhagwat, Sadhvi Niranjana, and Giriraj Singh.
Is that the one fear, Manisha Priyam? That 18% figure. Communal intolerance, 18% today believe that that's what the Prime Minister does. Is that the worry? If that starts increasing, that's when Mr. Modi has to worry, because that's when fence sitters will also start seeing, maybe did we make a mistake in voting for Mr. Modi, because yes, we like Mr. Modi, but we don't like the kind of people that he has, the likes of Giriraj Singh. We don't want to have anything to do with it. Is that the one thing that Mr. Modi should worry about after looking at the Mood of the Nation poll? A government should not be perceived whether it's going ahead and banning beef in Haryana or in Maharashtra, but whether it's providing jobs, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean,
and it shouldn't be banning beef.
And it shouldn't be banning beef. But is that going to be his? He's got to work on providing jobs and getting that part of his mandate right.
Yeah. So what he should be doing is this: that he needs to. This is, in a sense, a direct political compact that he's made with the people. He said that I'm going to do this. If you see, his political marketing is one in which he does issue poising. Swachh Bharat is nothing else but saying issue poised. This will be, it can be seen in a concrete way, and it's going to get done. This will be clean. Now, he does issue poising, makes a direct political compact with people, and says, I am the leader who's going to deliver these things. So it's a unique moment for Indian democracy. It needs to sit back and ask, okay, issue poised, you've become the CEO of India's democracy, and how does the CEO now work, having been given this type of mandate? And everybody believes that he is the person who can maneuver everything, get all the fringe elements behind. But ultimately, the Gujarat model was, delivered by doing whatever he did. But in a certain sense, the industry said, we are going to put our money here. This man has been able to manage this. So show us how this is done. That's the magic.
Does he have a magic wand? 10 lakh young Indians are coming into the job market every month.
No, he clearly doesn't have a magic wand. And I think most leaders of the party have kind of said that quite openly. If you see the budget speech, it starts with that. It says things are, really bad and it's going to take time. It's a long grind. So nobody anymore seems to be saying,
so if you were advising Mr. Modi, would you tell him, instead of giving these speeches constantly sort of, raising expectations, it's time now to tell people, look, I'm here, I'll do it for you, but I won't do it overnight. I'm not Mandrake the magician.
In fact, Rajdeep, just to add on the point that Dr. Baru made, you see, on the development plus good governance plus inclusive leadership, the point that he made that you need to combine all these three. If you look at development and good governance is 52%. Great. August 2014, this number was 70%.
Right.
It's important to see this in perspective.
So 70% has come down to 52% when it comes to Narendra Modi's image as a development and good governance icon. 18% communal intolerance was how much in August?
4%.
So communal intolerance has come from 4% to 18%. So if there's one concern that Mr. Modi should have, that's where the wake-up calls are coming for his government. The likes of Giriraj Singh do certainly no credit to the government of Narendra Modi.
I can just tell you one thing.
Neither does Mr. Fadnavis.
The one thing that we don't even have on the survey, and that's the mood of the labor intolerance. I can tell you that the numbers that you say of the new entrants, they're all people walking around in big urban centers. So we've got that problem right there by our street corners, and that'll come banging on us sooner than we expect that they should if we don't perform.
I think this poll is a mixed message. People still have faith in Narendra Modi, but people also are getting impatient. They want change, and they want to see visible change in their lives. If Narendra Modi wants to be the king of good times for a longer period, he will have to respond to the energies of and become an agent of change, not merely continuity. Surjit Bhalla, Manisha Priyam, Vivek Law, Javed Ansari, Sanjay Baru, Sachin Pilot, Nalin Kohli and N. Ram, thank you very much for joining us on the Mood of the Nation. It's been a pleasure sharing your analysis. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.